The sun had just dropped behind the jagged ridges of the western horizon, leaving streaks of crimson and gold across the sky when Elias Turner closed the heavy barn doors of his lonely ranch. For years, Elias had lived with nothing but the whistling prairie winds, the creak of saddle leather, and the endless expanse of dry land that never gave him company. His wife had been taken by sickness years ago, and since then the house had grown quiet. Too quiet. For a man who once knew laughter by the fire. That night, as coyotes yipped in the distance, he heard a softer sound, a fragile shuffle near the corral. He reached for the rifle leaning against the wall, cautious as any rancher must be, and stepped into the dusk. There, leaning against the fence, was a young Apache woman, her hair tangled from travel, her face pale with exhaustion. Her clothes were torn, her feet blistered, but her eyes, sharp and unyielding, met his with a mixture of defiance and desperation. "I just need a roof tonight," she whispered, voice trembling against the chill. The prairie wind carried her words like a prayer, fragile and fleeting. Elias studied her, this stranger who had crossed the invisible, dangerous line between her people and his, and saw something that struck deeper than fear. The reflection of his own loneliness. He could have sent her away, could have turned his back and let the night swallow her. But something in his chest stirred like an ember trying to catch flame. He lowered his rifle and nodded slowly. "Then stay," he said, his voice low, steady, yet carrying the weight of an invitation far greater than shelter. "Stay forever." Inside his cabin, the warmth of the fire cracked against the silence as the Apache woman settled onto the rough chair by the hearth, her shoulders trembling not from fear but from release. She had been running from those who mocked her for choosing a path away from her people, running from hunger, from betrayal, from the hard edges of a world that saw her as less. Elias poured her a cup of black coffee, thick and bitter, and set it in her hands. He watched as she wrapped her fingers around it like a lifeline. Neither spoke much. Words were scarce in the West, and both had been taught that silence was safer than trust. But something unspoken passed between them. She looked around at the worn wooden beams, the family Bible on the shelf, the empty rocking chair in the corner. It was a house aching for life, just as she was aching for a place to belong. The rancher saw in her not an intruder, but the possibility of something that had been missing: hope. That night, as the firelight danced across their faces, Elias knew the land outside might never forgive him for taking in an Apache woman. The neighbors would whisper, the law might pry, and the cruel winds of prejudice could blow hard against them. But when he looked into her eyes, he saw courage enough to weather it all. And so began a story not of a roof for a night, but of two souls finding shelter in each other. And dear listeners, if this tale of love, survival, and courage speaks to your heart, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, because every story we share here carries the dust of the wild, West, and the fire of human spirit, and you won't want to miss the next one.